welcome everybody to Salute to Service in a brand new year here in 2014. With me today, I kind of got a mix. I got an Army guy, Mr. Ray Hewitt, and I got a Navy and Coast Guard gentleman, Mr. Dave Lofy. I want to welcome you to the show.
How you doing, Ed?
Good to have you guys here.
Hi, Ed.
So I know you guys are really involved in veterans here in Medina County and with the American Legion and stuff. But let's go back some years, and we'll start out with you, Ray. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and how you got into the service.
Well, actually, I grew up on the west side of Cleveland, the Tremont area, which is now an area that's pretty thriving. And there were 4 boys in the family, and we were raised by one parent. So we really didn't have a lot of the means to, go to college and do some of the things
Right.
that others did back then. So when I graduated from high school in 1967,
College was a luxury back then.
it was. It's
Yeah.
like not everybody went.
Yeah.
But when I graduated in 1967 from Rhodes High School in Cleveland, everybody was going in some branch of the service, and I knew that I wasn't going to go to college because I didn't have the means.
Right.
So I joined the United States Army in 1968.
So you enlisted or drafted?
I enlisted.
You
Yes,
enlisted.
I did. Yes.
Pretty hard thing to do when full swing Vietnam War going on, 68, Tet Offensive. I mean,
I went in during the Tet Offensive in March of 1968. I was scared, like any other, serviceman would be, and of course you're giving up all the comforts of home and
right.
having the good life, so to speak. But it was something that I wanted to do because it was my duty to do it, and I wanted to serve my country.
Great. Now moving over to Dave here. Now you're a Navy/Coast Guardsman, but in my book they're all sailors, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I always call the Coast Guard guys sailors too, because I figured they're still on a ship, and to an Army guy, what the heck, right? So you started out in the Navy, and you served in the Navy for quite a while.
Yes, I did 10 years in the Navy, and then one day I was making a movie run for the ship, and there was the Coast Guard recruiter's office along the way, so I just stopped and introduced myself. I was in uniform, and I said, hey, I'm supposed to re-enlist tomorrow. What do you have in the Coast Guard for me? And he opened up a book, and I had my choice of over 20-some places to go. We
Wow.
talked, and then I said, okay, I'll do it. I have to get released from the Navy, discharged from the Navy, wait 24 hours,
And then sign up.
and sign up. So I went back to the ship, and being a good sailor, the personnel person was having his nooner. And so I woke him up, and I said, hey, I got a little problem. Could you make my re-enlistment papers discharge papers? My best friend swore at me.
Wow. He was upset you were going to leave him.
Yes.
So where are you originally from?
I'm originally from South Milwaukee, which is a suburb of the city of Milwaukee in Wisconsin. And it was somewhat like Medina, is a small community. Back then, we were the last housing development, and we had farms. We had cows in the backyard. And
So you joined the Navy from back in Milwaukee then, right? Enlisted?
yes,
And how many, talk about when you went in. When did you go in?
I went in the end of July 1969 when I graduated from high school. I first looked into the Army because I wanted to fly helicopters. And then when the recruiter said, take your glasses off, I
couldn't
could
see.
not see the board, so he said, sorry. He offered me other positions, but then I talked to my cousins, and some were in the Army, some were in the Air Force, some were in the Navy, and then I chose to go a day later into the Navy recruiter, signed up on the delayed program, then upon graduation went active duty.
So 10 years Navy, 10 years Coast Guard,
Yes.
retired.
Yes.
There you go. Now you only did 3-4 years in the Army, right?
Yes.
And don't take that the wrong way.
No, I didn't.
I
No,
got
no,
every
no.
bit of respect for a guy that did 1 year or 20 years. Because to me, a guy that did 1 year and raised his right hand, swore and protect the Constitution of the United States, did more than a lot of people. So
Correct.
the time really has nothing to do with it. But you went in at a period, Vietnam was going on, didn't know where you were going or what you were going to do. What did you do in the Army? I mean, what was your occupational specialty and where did you go?
Well, actually, Ed, when I got out of basic training from Fort Knox, Kentucky, after I signed up for the military police, I was sent to Fort Gordon, Georgia. And after graduating from military police school, I came home for a little while and then received orders to go to Germany. However, they didn't tell me where I was going, and they wouldn't tell me where I was going.
So you got there.
Until I got there. So I got to Frankfurt, Germany, and got to the replacement battalion. and was handpicked for a special duty and military police unit in the southern part of Germany.
Wow.
But they still wouldn't tell us where we were going. And because back then I was about 6'1", 6'2", and in shape, and about 85, 190 pounds, they didn't tell us where we were going to go until we got there, and I was actually stationed at the concentration camp at Dachau, Germany.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
It was really impressive. It was actually used, not so much the concentration camp, but behind it, which you couldn't see, was a stockade.
So what was your, because Dachau was a museum by then, wasn't it?
Correct.
So what was your job? Did it have to do with Dachau, or was it just some reason that you guys were stationed there? I mean,
Well, there was a stockade, which was used for American prisoners back then for disrespect to an officer, going AWOL,
stuff like,
and they used it for kind of pretrial confinement, where they would bring the guys into the stockade and show them what a jail would be like if they were going to trial, and then take them out after that. But it was the actual place used for political prisoners and other big name prisoners back in World War II, and it was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable.
Remember flying into Rhein-Main, that big tower there at the airport that when you flew in?
Oh, absolutely.
I saw a picture this past
Yes.
weekend. They were dismantling it. They're actually tearing it down because it's all going to be part of Frankfurt Airport now.
Wow.
But it was kind of sad. I saw the picture and I remember going into there, and it's coming down. So you did one tour down there. Did you do did you go anywhere else in Germany and serve, or were you just strictly down in the Munich area by Dachau?
Actually, I was down there about 13 months, and after that, the camp closed, or not the camp, but the stockade closed down, and I was reassigned to the 50th Military Police Detachment in Frankfurt, Germany, which was another experience into itself, yes.
So Army guy, Navy guy, man, that's a big difference here. Obviously, the Navy, I mean, I always say the Navy's got the best real estate, but the sailors don't get to see it because, Norfolk and San Diego is a great place to be stationed if I was a Navy spouse, I guess.
Yes, but the Coast Guard had some fantastic
Coast
places.
Guard's pretty good too. So where were you stationed, your first duty station coming out of Great Lakes or wherever you did basic at?
Well, right after basic training at Great Lakes, I ended up going to quartermaster school in Newport, Rhode Island. Now, quartermaster is like assistant navigator on the ship, not supply like in the Army. And so I was at Rhode Island for school. After that, I got transferred to my first ship, was an oiler out of Newport, Rhode Island. And during that time, we were just supplying fuel to the aircraft carriers, destroyers, cruisers in the Atlantic and Mediterranean. From there, I went to a submarine tender, a ship that repairs submarines.
Well, they're out at sea somewhere.
No, they come to us in the
Oh,
port.
okay.
And with that, we were sent to La Maddalena, Sardinia, to start up a submarine base to take care of repairing nuclear submarines in the Mediterranean,
Oh, wow.
which the Italian Communist Party did not like. We had protests and everything. And then after that, all my next orders were to a river division, Riv Div 21, where we trained on small boats such as, they call them nasty boats, like the
Swift
PT boats.
and stuff, yeah.
And after 90 days, they said, okay, enough of that program.
Came and went pretty quick.
That was quick.
So any interest, you were stationed in Italy then for a while?
Yes, we were there for 6 months, starting up the base with the Italian government supervising us and everything. Because of having nuclear submarines in that area, they were a little bit worried. But we had an outstanding record.
Right.
And 20 years later, my brother was there on his ship doing the same
place.
thing.
So did you get to go out and see the countryside or anything like that?
Oh, I've been to the Vatican a couple times. I flew up to Switzerland to see an old high school exchange student that I dated. So that's where I kind of fell in love with Europe.
Yeah, Europe's it's a beautiful place. And whether you're in Switzerland, Italy, Germany, they're all really nice. I always thought Germany was, out of everywhere I ever was, I thought Germany was the nicest. So let's come back. No tours in Vietnam. You spent your whole time in Germany.
Correct.
Height of the Cold War. A lot of protests, I would assume, going on. They didn't particularly like the fact that we were there.
No,
They
no.
didn't like that we were in Vietnam either, probably.
No. And as a matter of fact, Ed, when I was stationed in Frankfurt, many times our concern would be surrounded by the German nationals because Nixon would do something or something they didn't like about the war or our policy or whatever, and they surrounded us many times because they just didn't like us there at that time. It was tough. You really had to be careful. So there were times I was up on the roof with full riot gear, and you know, with orders to, if they come over the wall, to, you know, take them out, basically.
No, what about with the nukes? Were there any, with the nuclear submarines, were there any protests down on the Navy base about, because I know when I was in Germany later in the 80s, they didn't particularly like us having nuclear weapons there, so.
Well, we could not confirm or deny about nuclear weapons, but we were with the nuclear submarines, and most of the protesting was done on the main islands, where we were on Santo Stefano, which was a small isolated island. We had one building at the end of the pier, and that was it.
That was it.
And it was just one huge mountain island, which now is, I believe there's a Club Med, or, you know.
So when you transferred over from the Navy to the Coast Guard, was it a big change? I mean.
Yes. When I reported on board my first Coast Guard cutter in Cocoa Beach, Florida, the executive officer looked at my record, and all of a sudden he saw that I had training on small boats. Right away I had to go to law enforcement school. I had to go to drug school.
Right.
I became a boarding officer for drugs, safety inspections of vessels, and it's like a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, and I mean, other than you're on a ship or a boat or whatever, I mean, the mission of the Navy and the mission of the Coast Guard is completely, I mean, it's like being a police officer versus, you know, being a SWAT guy, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
We, such as the big Mariel, Cuba refugee thing, we were one of the primary vessels there, and we were within 12 miles of the Cuban coastline, and we actually had one of those vessels, fishing vessels, sink, and so we had to rescue 50-some bodies, and I was on watch at that time. I was the junior officer of the deck, so I was vectoring helicopters from the Navy and the Coast Guard, picking up the survivors, and it got a little hairy. One day we were chased by some Cuban gunboats, and of course I'm on duty again. I'm taking neat pictures of them all, and it was a big difference, but kind of feels good though with the Coast Guard when you're actually seeing somebody in the water broken down or drowning, and you're there to help them out.
So, all right, my key question, since I got an Army guy and a Navy guy here, when you were in the field, what did you eat?
What did I eat when I was in the field? It was basically like sea rations. It was, you know, beans
In a
and
can,
in a can.
cold,
It was
right? It was cold.
cold. You had to take your canteen, dip it into a trash can that had real hot water in it to sanitize it initially.
It was horrible, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Now, when you were out at sea, what did you eat?
Well, he had air conditioning and
Besides the air conditioning,
Filet mignon.
served in bed, whatever.
no, the submarine tender, since we worked with submarines, in a submarine you got to condense space. So for like 2 years, our steaks were round hockey pucks. Our pork chops were frozen round hockey pucks. Actually, the cook would have the grill on, he'd flip them like that.
Did you hear that grill? He had a grill on.
Yeah,
Wow.
we
But
didn't know what that was back
But
then.
the food in the Coast Guard, since the ships I were on, we ordered our food from local grocery stores or food distributors, no government issue. You know, surf and turf was pretty good.
Wow.
And
Amazing. I always like to point that, you know,
Yes.
I toured one of the aircraft carriers when I was out there in California, and there's like 3 mess halls on this thing, and I'm like, wow, and they ate pretty good too. And not that we didn't eat good in the Army when we were back home, but you know, it's a big difference between rations. It's funny, I had to point that out.
Well, yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
So you guys both got out of the service, and obviously, you know, you do a lot with veterans here in Medina County. How long have you both lived in Medina County now?
I lived in Medina County since 1988.
Okay, and Dave?
I moved to Medina prior to my retirement, and it's about 87.
So both of you over 20 years. And I know from knowing you guys, you've been involved in the American Legion. You do a lot. Tell the viewers, what does the American Legion and other veterans organizations do? But what's some of the primary stuff that you guys do right here in the community?
Well, Ray here is our honor guard commander. He's in charge of our honor guard, and he makes sure all the guys are ready to go for the National Cemetery in Richmond. And he lets us know, like a mother, it's cold out, please wear your winter jackets.
It's
an Army thing.
It's an Army thing. He's got to do that, or the Navy guys will show up in short sleeves.
I'm going to remember that the next time.
But with the American Legion here, we're trying to get more involved in the community. We're trying to let people know what we're doing. Like at Ralph Hewitt Elementary School, when they had that French boy, Ray here, hey, let's get going. Let's honor the young boy.
Right.
And a few other things with Leon Bibb, with his work that Leon's done with the military. Ray took charge and got things going. My big thing right now with the American Legion is Buckeye Boy State.
Okay. Which is a huge program in Ohio. I know most of the states have a boys' state and a girls' state, but not all of them, but most of them. And Ohio is like the #1 for boys' state in the nation. It's
the largest in the United States. It's in 49 states. Hawaii is the only state that does not participate in the American Legion Boys State. We have other countries coming in and taking a look at what we're doing. We even had China last year looking at it, and they wanted to send some people.
See, I think there should be an adult state, because what those kids come out of there knowing about our government, a lot of adults don't know. It would be great for them to know.
That's an excellent idea.
They come out of there knowing. I mean, I remember the first time I went to Boys State. I was in New York. I went to New York Boys State and viewed it up there. They asked me to come look at it, and then I came down here and saw Ohio. And what those kids learn is amazing. I mean, it is in that 1 week they learn more than they'll learn in any political science or economics class.
Well, it says 1 week that shapes a lifetime.
It does, yeah.
And you'll have kids running for governor, lieutenant governor, mayor, county supervisors, school board, sanitation, dog catcher, and they go through actual experiences in a week.
They build that whole town there out of boxes, and they run it like they got to vote on money. My daughter went to Girls State, and it was quite an experience for her this past year. And I recommend any kid that can go. It's junior in high school.
Junior in high school, yes.
Any junior can go. Take advantage of it. It's absolutely free. And it's a great experience. The one thing I want to point out, you mentioned, is the thing at Richmond, the color guard that you guys do out there. And a lot of people, I always like to highlight this. A lot of people don't realize that the groups that go out there, like you, are all volunteers. There's a lot of people, actually. I've had people think that you guys were still in the military. I've had some people come into my office and go, well, the soldiers that were out there, and I go, you the two that folded the flag? No, those guys that shot the rifles. I said, well, take a look at them. They're a little older than soldiers. And a lot of people just don't realize that you guys volunteer. That's a volunteer thing that goes on out there. And if it wasn't for groups like the American Legion and the VFW, it wouldn't happen.
And that's right, Ed, and you bring up a good point. But first of all, Richmond, the Western Reserve National Cemetery, is really kind of unknown to a point here in Medina County. There's a lot of people, when I mention that we go down there, they go, where is that?
Right.
I encourage everyone to go down there and take a tour through there, because it's like a mini Arlington.
It is.
It's absolutely beautiful. But I just want to add that it's beyond an honor for us to go down there with the honor guard from the American Legion, because it doesn't matter what the weather's like, it doesn't matter what time of day, it doesn't matter. We're there.
You guys are out there in the thick of the rain, the cold, the snow, the heat.
Next week, Wednesday.
We have our duty come up. Actually, it'll be December 11th, but the temperature's supposed to be a high of 20. And we were going to be there regardless. And it's a way to say goodbye to the veteran and say thank you for what you've done, for us.
And they veterans deserve that. They serve their country, and that's kind of the last call that they get.
And you know what else? There's a unit there every day.
There is. From about 7 different counties.
7 different
you
counties.
guys share it. Now, how many? You're there what? Once every 10 weeks or
every 7 weeks?
Every 7 weeks. Okay. So let's go back to your time in service a little bit and capture. What's some of the most memorable experiences that you guys had when you were in service? And we'll start out with Dave here.
One of the most impressive things, well, there was a lot, but it was in rededication of the Statue of Liberty in New York City back in '86. I was teaching school in Yorktown, Virginia. I was teaching quartermaster school and boatswain school, and we were asked to take 5 of our patrol boats up there for presidential security. So we went from Virginia up to New York City, and we were all trained in the proper protocol, Secret Service and stuff like that. And being very close to Ronald Reagan and having all the VIPs and Secret Service on our boats and everything, and having Nancy Reagan on my boat as I took her to the
Wow.
Statue of Liberty. To me, that was awesome, you know. And the French President Mitterrand,
Because the French built the thing, yeah.
met him and everything, and that was another one. The other ones are, I'd say search and rescue, when they get me out of my nice, warm, comfortable bunk and I have to go
We'll
out.
go with the Navy story again.
Yeah.
Coast Guard.
Not
Coast Guard,
sleeping
yeah,
in the middle
okay.
of a field, you know, in a
light,
foxhole.
thundering and lightning and pouring rain, and 2 young boys decided to skip school and go fishing in their dad's fishing boat.
Right.
The motor broke down and they're in the Chesapeake Bay, which has some awesome currents that could just take you right out into the ocean. And finding the 2 young boys and
That's got to be rewarding.
bringing them in and all that, and kids were upset, you know, you're not going to arrest me, this and that. And I said, no, but I think your dad's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And, you know, feeling, hey, we did something worthwhile. And that's one of the things, the fulfillment of, you know, being a Coast Guard is, you know, saving life, saving property,
Right.
and all that stuff. And like the Cubans that we saved and the various other missions that we did in the Coast Guard. And it's just an awesome feeling. And so there's a big difference between the Navy and the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I imagine that's, you know, I mean, in any law enforcement agency like that, I mean, you have those moments that you feel really good, but I imagine also, I mean, it's not combat, but you also have those moments where you feel really bad when you can't save someone or when you just didn't, especially the Coast Guard. I imagine there's a lot of times I mean, you hear about them on Lake Erie, you just don't find the person until a few days later when they wash up. I mean, that would be heart-wrenching too and hard to go through because the questions of why, you know, I mean, wow, yeah. So, Army, Germany, most memorable, and I don't want to hear about the Fraulines or the beer houses or anything like that.
But then I have nothing to say.
But most memorable experience of your time in service?
Well, Ed, I'm going to have to go right back to where I was assigned. You know, when you're in school, you learn about history, and I like history. It's been one of my favorite subjects. But when you're actually assigned to an area that you hear about or that you know about, you grow up very fast. Right. And I did. I grew up very fast because I was at a place that there was a lot of atrocities that were, you know.
A lot of evil at Dachau.
A whole lot of evil. And you're there,
Yeah.
and you're right there. And I stood on a grave that had a cross on the ground with mass, you know, with people on it, just a mass burial. And, you know, you're right there. And I, like I said, I always had an interest in history. And then getting the chance to go through Europe to see what it's like. I took advantage of every, you know, leave I could get, you know, and Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England, you know, France, Italy, we were there, and it's just a chance to see what history is all about and things that you read about and things that you learn about. You're right there.
Yeah.
So I can say from
There's a
my
lot of
point
history
view,
from World War II still
absolutely.
there too,
You still see bullet holes in walls,
Yeah.
and you still see remnants of what happened in World War II there. And you're a part of that, you know. And I know we weren't there at that time, but you're right behind those guys, and you get a chance to see what they went through.
I remember going through Dachau, I think it was in the early 90s, and a couple years later we were stationed over, and my brother came over, and he wanted to go to Dachau, so I took him down there and I dropped him off. He said, well, aren't you coming in? And I said, no, once is enough. Because it's a museum and it's a memorial, but it's not like going to the History Museum where you want to go through time. I mean, once it hits home and it's kind of setting, you know, I mean, that's it. But you're right, the history there is amazing, especially for World War II. I mean, we can go out to our Civil War battlefields here in America and everything else, but over there, the cities have rebuilt, but there's still a lot of things, especially if you hit the old battlefields along the French border and there, and up into Belgium, and there's some nice airborne museums and all that stuff. And the people, I know when I was still there, they were much older, but the people from World War II are still there, especially you were there in the 60s, they were still young.
Correct.
But you talk to and I always found it different. We would go to France, and the French still didn't really like the Germans. And we were living with the Germans, and we were friends with the Germans. So it was always kind of that different animosity kind of thing going on there. But so you guys got out of the service, and I know you got out. It took you a long time. You did 20 years. It took you a few years to get out. What was the day like when you said, stamped out, here's your walking papers, and you're done?
Well, I was so excited about getting out of the service when I was discharged at Fort Dix, and they took us down to Philadelphia to get on the plane back to Cleveland. I got on the wrong plane. There was two planes. There was two planes that were sitting there like this, and I was so excited about going home, because you want to see your family.
Oh, yeah.
That I just jumped on the first plane, and I saw this lady. She was vacuuming the aisles, and I said, "Is this plane going to Cleveland?" And she said, "This plane isn't going anywhere." And it was the one next to it, so I had
So
to
you'd
hustle.
run over
I had
there.
to get out. It was just exciting about being home after being away for so
So
long.
what about you, Dave?
Well, I was stationed here in Cleveland, and I had enough leave time, so I took 90 days leave, and I looked for a job. And December 1st of 1989, when the Admiral gave me my certificates and shook my hands, I looked at my wife, and I was ready to say, what the heck do I do now?
Yeah.
But I was all set up to go work with
Right.
AT&T Ohio Bell, but it's just, leaving a nice family
Right.
and going to the unknown.
It's when you retire, I know it's a shift in life. It really is. And not like getting out of the service isn't, but usually you're a lot younger and everything else. And kind of when you're retiring, you're like, what do I do now? Well, I want to thank both of you guys for coming here. And I always ask everybody this question. If you had a chance to do anything different in your life, would you not have had the military included in it?
Absolutely not. I would do it all over again.
Proud to serve, right?
Absolutely proud to serve.
Dave? Obviously, you did
I don't
20.
know. I don't know if I do Navy first, Coast Guard first, but I definitely enjoyed them both. I mean, I had some bad times, but you forget about that.
That's your ups
You
and
think of
downs,
the
yeah.
great times and the people you met, the places you've been, and serving your country and everything, and it's just like, wow.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming down here to salute the service today.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you much.
Ed. Okay.
And we'll see you next month.